So good morning everybody and welcome to this webinar from Mimaki and BOFA. We just saw the video passing by and it's all about that video. It's about our SWJ-320EA printer together with the BOFA Air Purifying Unit. So let's kick off. First I want to introduce to you the people from BOFA, if they can switch on their camera as well. There is Josh Evans. Welcome, Josh. And we are waiting for Geoff. Yes, he joined. Welcome and very exciting that you are able and willing to have this webinar together with me. So let's start with Geoff. Can you please introduce yourself briefly?
Yes, good morning everybody. My name's Geoff Hamilton. I'm the International Sales Manager for BOFA. I have over 25 years of experience managing global distribution and OEM sales channels. And I have a real passion about developing distribution partnerships and strategies throughout the world. I have extensive experience in the electronics and fume extraction industries, and we have a strategic focus within BOFA on the print industry.
Okay, thank you, Geoff. Josh, also welcome. I see you are the applications engineer and head of learning, so maybe a few words from your side.
Yeah, hi. So as you said, my name is Josh Evans. I'm head of applications engineer and head of learning. My background's in chemical engineering, which means I'm a filtration and airflow specialist, which aligns me perfectly for BOFA and working with Mimaki.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, my name is Bert Benckhuysen. I'm the product manager for Mimaki Europe. And together with these two gentlemen, we made this beautiful air purifying unit happen. So far, the welcome part, I want to go briefly through the agenda for today. It's about 45 minutes of the webinar duration. I will start after this slide with some housekeeping rules. Then I will refresh your memory about our printer, prepared a few nice slides for that one. And then basically it's a BOFA show where Geoff will introduce the BOFA company and Josh will go into more depth about the principles of fume extraction, and the legal requirements and also specifically testing results, which looks extremely fascinating. And at the end, Geoff will highlight the new unit they developed exclusively for Mimaki for the 3m20 printer. And at the end, we will have a Q&A session. So all the listeners, if you are looking at your tools of GoToWebinar, you are able to raise a question, and those will pop up here on the screen. And at the end, we want to try to answer as much as possible. So please, if you have a question, just type in and send it to us. Okay, let's continue. Some housekeeping rules. Now, basically everybody is muted. We are recording the session, so in a later stage you can always, through our common websites, find the link and listen back this webinar. And like I said, if there are questions, then raise them by using the sidebar of GoToWebinar. So yeah, let's start with the SWJ printers. We already had a webinar where we briefly mentioned this one. It was during the cancelled festival and our online virtual online webinars. So I want to refresh it. It is our latest 320 centimeter wide printer. With the latest technologies. Also, it has a twin roll function. That's an optional one. We have 4 print heads in a staggered mode. We have a nozzle recovery system. I will tell you also about that one later. So basically, it's a fantastic printer with a stunning quality. We have some nice sample sets. I will remind you later on that how to order those. Especially the pricing for an A brand printer and the ink price will guarantee one of the lowest running costs for you out there. So some key specifications, like I said, it's 3.2 meters wide. The maximum resolution is 1200 dpi's. Let's say that we have a lot of core technology inside, but the main ones are MAPS 4 and are NRS. I will explain that a little bit later. Like I said, we have 4 piezo print heads. Piezo stands for variable dot printing, and the smallest drop size is 7 picoliters. It has an amazing printing speed of 137 square meters per hour in a 2-pass mode. Already that is very impressive if you see the quality of printing on that speed. We have a head gap where we can adjust that up to 3.3 millimeters. We have a new ink, CS100. It's a 4-color configuration, and those are 2-liter bottles. Of course, we have the tension bar for precise winding, which is always a challenge with such wide media. We have the media jam sensors and a twin roll printing, and some of those points I have prepared a slide to make it more clear for you. Yeah, and last but not least, and that's why we organized this webinar, we started a cooperation with BOFA, one of the main leading companies in the world today for air purifying systems, filter systems, and they made a beautiful manifold that fits very easy on our machine. So first a little bit about the quality, and this core technology is passing by many times when we discuss a printer, but still it's one of the most advanced ways of preventing bending. So we have an algorithm that is calculating per pass how to jet the inks and how to disperse the ink drops, and every pass is different. It's looking at the ink density, it's looking at the ink volume, it's looking at the speed, and that algorithm is calculating in such way that basically you can print even in a very high speed with no bending. And looking at the 3m20 market, this is quite unique. There are a few out there that have, let's say, a kind of anti-bending system with some density, but the advanced technology that we put in 320 in this printer is really unique in the market. Also, what is very important is that we allow the operators to play with parameters to find their best speed for their acceptable quality. So really, you don't need to go from 2-pass directly to 4-pass. You can play with maps and see and keep still a high speed without bending or unacceptable print quality. Another feature that also comes back, and it's really important, is our nozzle recovery system. So in case if there are some nozzles misfiring or blocking, then we can print a pattern. You can check which nozzle exactly is missing by register the correct nozzle, and then replace the nozzle in the machine, and that means that you can directly start printing without loss of speed. So yeah, it's a very important feature for continuous operation with our NRS system. Looking briefly at the printing speeds. So like I said, the fastest speed we have is 137 square meters an hour. It's on a 300 by 600 DPI mode and 2-pass in bidirectional printing. Most likely the average production mode, I think, will be around 74 and between 47, 74. That would be an extreme nice quality printing mode, and that's quite fast in 320 centimeter printing wide. Solvent inks, it's a solvent printer. So we have CS100 new inks, 4 color configuration. So basically we have 2 print heads with magenta, 2 with cyan, yellow and black. And of course, today with BOFA, it's about the fume, the odor that is coming. We are printing on a very wide width with a relatively very high speed. So the market asked us if it is possible to think about a solution to reduce that fume. And that's the reason why we contacted BOFA to develop this unit that Geoff and Josh are sharing with you in a moment. The ink itself, it's a very high competitive priced ink. We know this market is very price sensitive, so we were following the demand of the market also to come up with an ink that can meet the pricing out there. A nice feature, although it's optional, it's a twin roll printing function. So instead of one wide roll, you can load 2 smaller rolls of 152 centimeters each. And with that, basically, you can also double your normal production. We have some options there. We have software where we can set it to twin roll printing. Then you will see 2 layouts, and one of the possibilities is just printing copies on both rolls at the same time. Another one is just make your custom layout. You can place as many files on each roll and on each position. Can be different files. The only thing is the media should have the same thickness, and of course what we are printing should be printed with one profile from the rib. And another function, for example, is styling. So you can print the first tile, in this case at the right, and then the second one with an overlap on the other roll. So yeah, a lot of functionality with twin roll printing. I have to admit, most of the units sold out there are ordered with twin roll support. The printer is coming with standard with Rasterlink 6 Plus. It's our own RIP software. Well, most of you and certainly the Mimaki users know this software. It's a very advanced software with many functionality inside, and of course this twin roll support at the bottom of this list is necessary for this machine. So which leads me to the last slide, basically our summary. So we are delivering the SWJ-320EA with a 1-year full warranty, including the print heads. Of course, you have the service around your corner. We are working with a dealer network. Every dealer has its own technicians. We know we are competing in this market with mainly Chinese products, Turkish products, where service can be a challenge. With this Mimaki printer, you know, in case if there is an issue around the corner, is the service. Yeah, the main core technologies I mentioned, MAPS4 and NRS. It comes including the RIP software, and we have the optional twin roll printing to double your small roll productivity. And of course, optional, we can make the BOFA Air Purifier system active to create a comfortable environment. So basically, the last conclusion I want to mention, if you look at all the 3.2 meter solvent printers out there, we have by far the lowest priced A-branded printer with all the Mimaki technology, with the Mimaki quality, print quality you are used to, with service around the corner, and with a running cost that really is competitive with other printers. So that concludes my story. I want to hand out the presentation to Geoff. So Geoff, if you are in, then please take over and explain about the BOFA company.
Thank you, Bert. If you could do the next slide for me. So let me introduce BOFA. BOFA are experts in filtration. We were established in 1987 by a local man working from his garage, and today we employ over 230 people based at our UK headquarters and our offices in North America and Germany. We produce high quality, high performance fume extraction systems that are designed to protect the workers, protect the equipment, and also the environment in a wide range of industries with a strategic focus on printing, electronics, laser, 3D printing, and additive manufacturing. All of our products have been developed based on scientific research and field-proven application experience. We today ship upwards of 25,000 extractions per annum, with 90% worldwide export sales. In 2012, we were the proud winners of the Queen's Award and winners again in 2017. In 2018, BOFA was acquired by Donaldson Company Incorporated. And Donaldson are a global leader in industrial air filtration solutions, and they employ some 12,000 people across 44 different countries worldwide. Donaldson also invests $55 million per annum in research and development. And through this association, BOFA has unlimited access to the Donaldson R&D teams working in partnership on filter development. In 2007, we launched the Print Pro range of extraction systems specifically designed to eliminate emissions produced in a wide range of wide format printing applications, including solvent, UV inks, and dye sublimation. More recently, BOFA has become well established in 3D printing and additive manufacturing. And through our continuous improvement program, we are refining our products to meet the requirements of new technologies emerging in the industries. So that's a brief overview of BOFA. We'll be coming back to you later, but for now I'd like to pass you to my colleague Josh Evans, who's going to discuss the principles of fume extraction.
Thank you very much, Geoff. If we could go on to the first slide, please. Okay, as a quick introduction to what BOFA extractors do, step one is always capture the fume or the contaminant at the source. And that's what this purple manifold that we've designed for Mimaki is designed to do. So we capture the fume at source, because if it gets out into the room, it's already too late. However, once it's captured, we pass it through several stages of filtration. The first stage is a HEPA filter. This filters particles that you might find from pigments and just general room dust. Our HEPA particle filters are designed to remove 99.997% of 0.3 micron particles. For those that aren't aware, 1 micron is 1,000th of a millimeter or 1 millionth of a meter. So these particles are very fine. After we've removed the particles, which can be very damaging to your health, we remove the gases, the odors in the room, the smells. We do this by passing it through an activated carbon filter. We'll talk a bit more about this later, but this removes those odors, smells that can be very unpleasant, but can also be quite damaging to your health. And then the final stage is we return the filtered air back into the workplace. So if we go on to the next slide, thank you. So let's look a bit closer at the HEPA filters. HEPA stands for high efficiency particulate in air. And as I say, it removes these particles that you can be breathing in and can be entering your respiratory system, causing damage. And it does this in a number of different ways. Most people think of a filter as a sieve or like a fishnet. So if the particles are too large to get through, then they won't. This is kind of what's happening, but it's not the whole story. In fact, there's something called diffusion or Brownian motion, which is where the air is constantly bumping into particles. The smaller those particles are, the more erratically they move, the more wide their flow path is. And the more erratically they move, the more likely they are to come into contact with one of our filter fibers and be filtered. So when we say that our filters are 99.997% efficient at 0.3 microns, 0.3 microns is the lowest efficiency we achieve. So even for particles smaller than this, we achieve a higher efficiency, which is why the air return to the workplace is so clean. Then if we move on to the next slide, we can start looking at our activated carbon. So our activated carbon is actually made from coconut shells. This is then specially heat treated and then chemically treated. And what this does is it gives it a huge surface area. Each gram of our carbon, each granule, has roughly 800 meters squared of surface area, which gives it a huge potential to absorb chemicals onto its surface. And it's particularly good at organic chemicals with polar molecules and high molecular weights. You don't have to know what that means, but Mimaki inks are perfectly suited for this type of filtration. So as I say, these gases and odors, they can be unpleasant, but they can also affect your health. So filtering them is really important. And if we go on to the next slide, we'll start looking at the legal requirements. Now, every country has its own set of legal requirements, but they all follow the same sort of guidelines. And I tend to break it down into two steps. The first step is, it is the duty of every employer to look after everyone on their site. This can be employees, visitors, subcontractors, or general members of the public. If they are on your site, they are your responsibility to look after their health, safety, and well-being. So I've put a few examples of the regulations from various countries that show this first principle, but you can find them in essentially every country. On the next slide, you'll see step two. Step two, after we've made it the responsibility of the employer, each country sets what are known as occupational exposure limits. These are maximum concentrations of each chemical that people are allowed to be exposed to. So again, they've got different names in each country. Here in the UK, they're workplace exposure limits, but in Germany, for example, they're called maximum allowable concentrations. And you can normally download these off the internet for free. On the next slide, there's an example. This is actually taken from the UK workplace exposure limits, but almost every regulation looks identical to this. The numbers may change a bit, but the format is exactly the same. And what we have here is in the left-hand column, you have your substance. This is your chemical name. So if we take the top example, you've got acetaldehyde. But depending on what language you speak or what naming system you have, every chemical can have about 20 or 30 different names. So we give it a CAS number. And this registration number is specific to that chemical. So if you know the CAS number, you know the exact chemical that you're talking about. So for the top example, it's 75-07-0. After this, we have the actual workplace exposure limits. So first of all, they give a workplace exposure limit for an 8-hour working day. In the top example, you have 20 parts per million or 37 milligrams per meter cubed. This is exactly the same number, it's just different ways of measuring it. So that assumes you're working across an 8-hour working day. But then you have your short-term exposure limit, which assumes you're being exposed for a 15-minute period. So that 8-hour working day would be if you're working next to the printer constantly, whilst the 15-minute period might be if you're showing your customer your printing process. So there's a shorter exposure time, so you're allowed to be exposed to a slightly higher concentration. And then finally, we've got the final column, which has some comments whether there are particular skin irritations or carcinogenic properties associated with that chemical. Not all regulations have this final column, but a few do. If we move on to the next slide. So what we've done is we've looked at the chemical composition of Mimaki inks, which you can see on the top there, has 3 primary components. And then we've looked up the workplace exposure limits for each of those chemicals. And then on the next slide, you'll see that we've taken these workplace exposure limits. We actually took the most harmful chemical and assumed that all of the ink was made of this as a worst case scenario. And then we did a test print, which you can see on the left-hand side, working with Mimaki, and we measured the amount of these chemicals that were being emitted. And you can see the results of this experiment on the right-hand side. So the red line shows our legal exposure limit, so the maximum concentration that should be allowed to be exposed to. And without the extraction in the orange, you can see that you've got this huge emissions. Now these are measured right at the printer, so as it gets into the room, it might be diluted a little bit more. But then with extraction, this emission is bringing down incredibly low, far below the legal limit. So we know that we're legally compliant. Next, let's look at the capture. So as I said, this is the first step in BOFA extraction, and in many ways this is the most important. Doesn't matter how good your filters are if you're not capturing all of the particles and gases that could be damaging to health from the process. So then we look at how best to capture it. What we need to do is assure a certain airspeed to capture these fumes. For printing processes, it's an evaporation and mist process. So we use a value of 0.25 to 0.5 meters per second. And again, we take the upper limit of this, the 0.5 meters per second, as a worst case scenario. And then on the next slide, so these are our test results. As you can see, the manifold is made up of 2 sections, each connected to an extractor, and each section has 3 little subsections. And what we did is we measured the air speeds escaping from each of these sections. And on the right-hand side, you can see the results of this experiment. So the red line, again, that's our 0.5 meters per second. So that's what we're trying to achieve. And as you can see across the entire manifold, we're achieving this between the extractor has multiple speed settings. So we recommend setting it between speed setting 3 and speed setting 6. And then I think that's the end of my section if we pass it back to Geoff.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Next slide, please, Bert. So the challenge is on. Mimaki gave us the challenge to provide a solution that would eliminate harmful fumes, indeed smells, and particulate from the SWJ-320 printing process. The good news is that's exactly what we do. We have a pedigree in fume extraction with over 30 years experience, and BOFA really does excel in the development of such solutions. So internally, we engage with our BOFA R&D teams and the product managements to design an effective and easy to install plug and play solution. The result is a highly efficient design system with a maximum of 5 millimeters space between the manifold and the media along the entire length of the printer, providing exceptional fume and particulate capture. The BOFA Air Purifier Unit also complements the design of the SWJ-320 brand visually without any compromise to the printer's functionality. Next slide, please. So, in summary, this is what you get. In the box, we have a single part manifold designed exclusively for the Mimaki SWJ-320 printer and 2 BOFA Air Purifier units ready to install, as previously mentioned, plug and play. The efficient capture of the fume and particulate is achieved through the proprietary constructed manifold and the BOFA's air purifier superior extraction performance. The end result is no harmful smells or harmful particulate being released into the working environment, as these have been captured through specially designed combined HEPA and treated carbon filters. The then filtered air, clean air, is safely released back into the workplace without the need for expensive, inflexible, static ducting and holes in the roof space. Next slide. But, it doesn't stop there. We offer, as a company, ongoing in-life support to BOFA users worldwide. We provide technical documentation in multiple languages. We provide product data sheets, product manuals, how-to videos. All of this is available through the BOFA web portal. We offer one-to-one technical support via email, telephone, live chat, both in Europe and in the US. It's available. We offer training modules, online learning. We have the BOFA Academy, and we can even tailor this training to your individual needs by request. We don't only support the SWJ-320, we support many, many other print applications in various different industries. And, we have application support ready to assist you in finding the right solution for your printer. We'll also happily advise on a variety of applications for appropriate filtration of contaminants. And again, please ask. That brings me to the end of my little bit. I'd like to really thank you all for your time, and I hope this was of interest to you all.
So thank you so much, Geoff and Josh. Very interesting story. Even I learned some things from Josh's story. So it was really interesting to see all those testing results. We have this manifold installed in our showroom, so it really is a quite big difference without or with your unit. So which brings us to the Q&A session, and next to me Mark joined, Mark Sollman. He is our showroom manager, application specialist also, so he joined us in case if there are questions about SWJ and media and this kind of questions, and he collected already a few questions from the audience. So Mark, I don't know which one you want to start with.
Yeah, let's start. We have a lot of questions. The Douglas is asking, I see this is a challenge with solvent. Would this apply to UV inks also? Now for our UV inks, we have a green card gold certificate. So from the market, we didn't have any questions yet, but Geoff, would this also be an option for UV inks?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
That's a clear answer. Douglas has got another question, I'm afraid. I have another question wondering what the benefits are in terms of equipment and maintenance. Does this solution help to reduce ink mist? No, unfortunately not, because ink mist is next to the printhead, and this is when the curing. So this is in a later stage.
I see a question maybe interesting to know from Daniel. How often do the filters need to be changed?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Of course, I can understand that depends how much you are printing, but can you express that in kind of square meters, Josh or Geoff?
So as you say, it depends on usage, whether you're using one side or the other, working 1 hour a day or 24 hours a day. It can also be affected by environmental conditions and the settings of your printer. But the Print Pro has 20 kilos of activated carbon in it, which is suitable for absorbing around 2 to 4 kilos of solvent. And then we have 2 of those, of course. So we're talking 4 to 8 kilos of solvent, which is quite significant in gas form. If you think how much 8 kilos of gas, what volume that takes up, it's quite a lot. So again, depends on your environmental settings, your printer settings and stuff like that, but around 4 to 8 kilos of solvent.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. That's a good. I think I have more technical questions. Are the full filters toxic or special waste? Frank is asking.
Okay, yeah, I'll answer this one again. So the filters themselves are made out of a bit of steel, glass fibers, some glue, and some activated carbon. So the filters themselves would normally be classified as general waste. With the solvents in there, it can change not just country by country, but region by region. I mean, often when I move address, it changes what I can put in the recycling. What we recommend is getting in contact with a local waste management company, tell them what you've been processing, and they should be able to come up with an answer. But if you think about it, whatever you're doing with the used print cartridges, it was the same chemical in there that's now in the filters, so it should be the same waste stream.
Yeah, perfect, thanks. Another question, what kind of connections does the filter need? Electricity and air pressure, what is necessary?
Electricity, it's as we'd said, it's plug and play. So if you can imagine, you'll receive the manifold and the 2 air purifier units, and plug them in, connect the pipes to the ends of the manifold, and you should be good to go.
And regarding to that question, how often do the filters need to be replaced?
That's already.
Yeah. So it's again, so same answer as before, but
okay,
we also recommend that they're changed a minimum of once a year, as they do have a shelf life.
Yeah, also to install the unit, it's basically peanuts. Within 45 minutes, you can mount the complete system, and we can use existing, how do you call that in English, bolt holes. Is that correct? So there is no drilling required. It's just very easy. There is a manual. You can also download that in the handout on the webinar tool, so it's very easy to install it yourself.
Question regarding price. I think I can ask it to Bert. What is the net price for the air purifying system?
Well, It's a little bit the same as with the printer. We are selling, Mimaki Europe is not selling it itself. It is sold by our dealer network. So in case if you are interested to add, and I see also a question that somebody wants to add it on in its existing printer, just contact your local Mimaki dealer. And they will get in touch with BOFA, will order it and make sure that they will install it, or even you can install it as an end user yourself. When you talk about pricing, then basically with an SWJ, including the BOFA unit and installation, it will be less than 40K. So it's really a very attractive price to have a complete 320 solution.
Yeah. Thanks, Bert. Patrick is asking, are there more BOFA Mimaki solution coming up in the future, maybe for the JV and CJV series?
Yeah, let's say so far, let's say when I see the market, and I'm talking about the MIA, the request of such a solution that we are discussing today came mainly from Western Europe. So countries like the UK, like the Netherlands, like Germany, they are really into a very safe and healthy environment more and more. When we go more to the East and the South and Middle East, let's say price sensitive, they want to have a very cheap ink, which comes with mostly a lot of smell. So yeah, coming back to your question, the most inks we have for solvent printing and also for UV inking didn't require so far, luckily, the need for an air purifying system attached. Of course, it depends also how much you print and how small your printing room is and how is your air circulation in that room, which is always recommended, by the way. But yeah, in case if we have an ink or a situation where the fumes are, let's say, more than it's pleasant to work in such an environment, of course, then yeah, we have now the connection with BOFA. We can easily go to a next manifold for the next machine.
Thank you, Bert. We're ready for that next opportunity.
Yes, I can imagine.
Perfect. Usman is asking, is it possible to utilize this BOFA with the older version SWJ-320 S4?
I don't think so, no. Because the frame the manifold is placed on two brackets, and the holes where they are positioned are different location from the S4 than from the SWJ. Although what we can do is what would it take to change it? Maybe we can have a look into that one. So I want to suggest with Geoff, let's check the whole configuration of that stand and see with maybe some minor changes we can also make this happen for the S4 model.
Yeah. Sure, we can look at that, Bert.
Yeah. So we will get back to that question, that answer, Usman, as soon as possible.
Yeah. Thomas is asking, is it can we also use the twin roll option when we have the BOFA installed? Yes.
Yes.
We can. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yes, but sorry.
There's no compromise to the functionality of the SWJ-320.
Yeah.
What parts do you need to buy for the dual roll printing? Question from Sarah. It's one option. Basically, what you need to acquire is the two small take-up units. And I believe that it's about, I thought about 700 or 800 euro for the set. So really, it is not that much money for what you get, and can double your small width printing.
Yeah. And we are limited to 1.52 maximum of twin roll printing. 3.2 divided by 2 is 1.6, but we need a space in the middle for the twin roll, for the roll holder.
Yeah. So you need to consider that, let's say, when you look at the standard media sizing, 162 will not be possible at 137, which is basically the most used with. Then it's just possible. And also car wrap vinyl, for example, from 150 will be possible.
Yeah. Okay, I think we finished the questions, Bert.
Yeah.
If we still got questions, we will answer them after the webinar.
Okay, so then let's wrap it up. I see a few questions there, but this is, let's say, different questions also about different machines and different ink. So we will answer those personally by email to everybody. I would like to end this webinar, and I would like to start thanking Geoff and Josh once more to join this webinar. As I said, it was very interesting. I think we together provided a fantastic solution to our customers. We know already quite some units have been ordered since we announced it in the market by a press release. So any last words from you guys?
Thank you everybody for attending the seminar.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Okay, you're welcome. So then, it's about to end it. Everybody will receive a thank you email. Also, there will be the links to look back this webinar. You can have a handout where you can download 3 documents. The first one is the installation guide, so where you can see how easy it is to install the manifold from BOFA. The other one is call it the manual, where you can read back what it's all about, and also about the air purifying systems, the units itself. And we have the handout for the brochure of the SWJ-320EA. Also, there is a possibility to request a sample set from the SWJ. We have a lot of them here in Amsterdam, so just send us a request through our landing page. Also, that will be in the thank you email, and we will happily send you that sample set where you can see the amazing quality of our printer. If you come up later with some additional questions, just send the email and the question to webinar@emea.mimaki.com. And before we close the webinar, you will get automatically a survey with some questions. One of them is to, if you want to get in personal contact with either people from BOFA experts or from Mimaki, you can mark that, and we will get in touch with you. So that concludes this webinar. Thank you once more, everybody, for listening. Hope to see you soon in the next webinar, and enjoy your day, and especially enjoy the BOFA manifold on our beautiful printer. Bye-bye.